Yo, what's up, y'all? This is August C. Jones, and we are here with episode 3 of the ST podcast. Spoiler talk, spoiler territory, however you want to look at it. We're talking spoilers. So, with that said, spoiler warning for both the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and my late spoiler reviews for episode 8 and episode 9 of WandaVision. So if you have not seen any of those episodes or anything, don't listen to this because this is spoiler all over. So first of all, we're going to talk about the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which premiered this past Friday. And man, this show actually it kind of surprised me. Like this episode, it kind of surprised me for the simple fact that it was on a regular length type of episode because, you know, with the Mandalorian, mainly it averages like around 30 something minutes per episode. As we got into the second season, it started to, get expanded a little bit more to where it's like 30 to 40 minutes or whatnot. And with WandaVision, because it was kind of like taking on the kind of like sitcom type length of the show. So we had majority of the shows, which was episode 1 through 8, being the length of like 20 to 30 something minutes, with the last episode being nearly almost an hour. With the first episode of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, it started off with being 42 minutes, and that's not including the credits or whatever, the end credits. This is just the full length of the episode or whatnot. So I can appreciate that. But what kind of sucked about it was that the episode did not feel like it was 42 minutes long. It really didn't feel like it. It felt like it was 20 something minutes long because it literally just flew by. You got into it, just basically just getting into it. It made it feel like, it was like we needed more. With the first action sequence of the whole show, which is actually pretty damn good. And Disney wasn't lying when they said that the same type of visual effects that they were going to do for the movies that they were going to do for the shows. So basically expect that, because when you look at normal regular TV or whatnot, when you look at the effects that are used in the movies as compared to the shows, there's a big difference, a huge difference. And we've learned to accept that. But with what Disney Plus is doing, it's like literally can't tell the difference. Because the whole action scene with Falcon and him trying to save a soldier or whatnot, it looked like something you would see in an MCU movie. Like the visuals are just off the chain. Just how they did it. The action sequence is crazy. And even just from just the fighting style, it's the same thing that you would see in a Marvel film. So it really did not disappoint. And the action scene is crazy. From just beginning to end. And it shows like literally it's like, yeah, Falcon deserves to be an Avenger, because what he did in there was just completely badass. And I really did like it. And then also it get a little bit into Bucky. Bucky does have a fight scene in this episode. They haven't even met together. So it was just kind of establishing where they are in their, in their lives at this moment, after the blip, after, after the event of Endgame or whatever, or the events of Endgame. And it shows Bucky still dealing with everything in his life, from just his past, even to just trying to fit into society. And he's still being haunted by his past and everything that he's done, especially with befriending. And I didn't actually catch this until the second viewing. And I'm just like, it didn't even stand out to me like that. But the innocent life that he took during one of his past missions that he had a nightmare about, was the son of the guy that he befriended. So it shows why he's like friends with this older guy, and why he's being so nice to him or whatever. So I feel like later on in the season, either something's gonna happen to the old man, or he's gonna end up being haunted by it so much to where he's just gonna have to. She's gonna end up telling him, like, your son, I killed him, blah blah blah, and everything else. And so, yeah, it just basically established that he's trying to work through therapy and just trying to, get better with handling everything that he's been through. And you can tell that he's a messed up soul. He's just a completely messed up soul. And, his whole fight scene is really just a past thing or whatnot of him doing one of his missions that Hydra sent him on, killing whoever and everything else, and just showing what type of like monster he was as far as his mental goes. And it just really, that's really what the episode was about, as well as following Sam and his personal life with his sister and his nephews or whatever, and they're struggling money wise, and just kind of shows like how they are with the whole after the blip and how things were during the blip. Because one thing that we did learn from WandaVision, even in this first episode of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, is that it was hard for a lot of people during the blip, not only dealing with loved ones just disappearing off the face of the earth and not knowing that they were going to come back. It's just literally people sitting with the thing of just accepting like they're gone, so we have to move on. So you got to think of how much lives have changed from people, losing their spouse, being like, okay, well, they're gone, they're not coming back, so I'm going to, basically remarry and probably even have kids. And then this person comes back into their life like, oh crap. Even just dealing with people that, like a brother or a friend that you thought wasn't coming back, and then now they're suddenly back. And then just the whole world having to deal with it. Like, these people disappeared. Now they're coming back. Now, like, how are we dealing with this? Even to when, they went in to get a loan from the bank or whatever to help them out. And basically just telling them that, like, yeah, that, policies had to change because the blip happened and then people came back, so they can't just be giving out money. Like, it's just kind of like it's a weird scenario, and it just shows the struggle with people having to deal with when the blip happened, and then now just still struggling with trying to change back or change into something else when people came back. So it just shows how people are handling in both situations or whatnot. And just even during the blip, like, I feel like some way, somehow, some shape or another, they're going to tackle how it was within those 5 years, because they have been mentioned up in WandaVision how Hayward basically just said to Monica, like, you wasn't here during those 5 years. You don't know how hard it was. And that's basically the same sentiment that was expressed in this episode of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Was like, it was hard during the 5 years, during the blip, during when everybody disappeared, as well as a radical group that was created during the blip that was shown up in here, where we got a masked guy who literally sent out something with the followers or whatever of the people that followed them or whatever the heck, where they had to put on masks to cause type of chaos. That way he can get away with whatever he was trying to get away with. And it shows that he has super abilities to the point where Sam gets the footage and he is kind of thinking like, is this Bucky? Do we have to worry about him, converting back or reverting back into his old ways? And it kind of hints towards that, because he doesn't want to say it, but he wants to make sure whatnot. And we can see that, Sam has been reaching out to Bucky, but Bucky hasn't been, returning his phone calls or text messages or whatever it is. And it just shows like the whole blip, the 5 years is going to play a major role within this series, And I feel like with the later movies, it more than likely going to play a major role with certain characters and certain situations and everything else. And it also deals with, Sam just kind of like trying to figure out, do he really deserve to hold the mantle or at least the shield of Captain America? Because it starts off with him basically having the shield and basically giving it back to the U.S. because he feels like he's not fit for it. He feels like that belongs to Steve Rogers, like it's not his. Even though Steve told him, this is yours. Like, it doesn't belong to me. This is yours. You do what you do with it. And so he just doesn't feel like, I guess you could say that he's worthy enough to hold the shield or whatnot. But I feel with the way that this show started off, I feel by the end of the show, by the end of the season, that he is going to take the mantle of Captain America. That it's not going to be any more Falcon. It's going to be Sam Wilson as the new Captain America. And I honestly feel that. I could be wrong. I honestly could be wrong, but that's what it feels like they're leading toward because of just how this episode ended. Just basically, you got this guy, this Randy, this random dude who is put in the suit of Captain America to be the new Captain America. Now, I don't think that he has any like superpowers or super abilities like Steve Rogers. I feel like he's just a guy that they're using to represent as Captain America. Is he gonna be? Does he have any type of skill? Is he military background to where he can actually do something with the mantle? I don't know, but I think he's just some random dude, just a face to keep people comfort, just like what Steve Rogers did. But he probably could be military in some type of sense to basically just kind of do something with the mantle of, of Steve Rogers, of Captain America, whatnot. But one thing that just kind of like got into my mind while I was watching this show is during the beginning, fighting the action sequence or whatnot, you got the bad guys jumping out the plane after they, kind of bested, Sam Wilson or, Falcon or whatnot. And they jump out the plane. And I'm just thinking, y'all really think that y'all gonna jump out the plane? Like, if this was Captain America, you probably would have had a better, chance of getting away, or anybody else that can't fly. You have Sam Wilson, whose name literally is the Falcon, who has mechanical wings, that you think jumping out of a plane wearing a glider suit is going to stop him from chasing you? It's like, okay, yeah, you might want to make sure that you can disable his wings before you jump out of the plane, and you think that he won't follow you. But I don't know. that's just my whole thing or whatnot. But I just found that funny because I'm just like, yeah. But in any case, this is a good first episode. Like I said, the only major thing that sucked about it was that it's 42 minutes. And I am counting the beginnings, Marvel sequence, Marvel Studios and everything else. But it felt like it was 20 minutes long. It's like the time literally just went by. And yeah, I didn't mention the whole Falcon, Winter Soldier Bucky ended up going on a date with some girl or whatever, because it wasn't anything too big. But the overall episode, I did like it. It basically established where both the characters are at this moment, and it basically sets up where the show is going to go, so we have more of an idea of what's going to just the situation and what may bring these two together and everything else. And I kind of like it. I want to see where the episode 2 starts off, or just where it goes from here, especially with this new Captain America. And just like I said, is he skilled, or is he just a person that's wearing the mantle just for being a face of security for the U.S. or whatnot? So I'm curious to see what they're gonna go after this. So I really did like it. I really did. So let's go ahead and jump real quick right into WandaVision episode 8. So yeah, I'm just a heavy procrastinator, and I know a lot of people can really just relate to it. But I just wanted to go ahead and get these out the way and just finish what I started. And later on this week, I will have my review for the overall season of WandaVision, so be looking out for that. But episode 8 was called Previously On, and it's actually a good name for it because of the simple fact that this whole episode is just about her going into her past and us learning more about just this show and certain things that happen into it, and then just certain things that just about the character that we didn't know, or certain things that we did kind of suspect or whatever. And it does go into the whole infamous bombing moment with, you know, the death of her family, and them waiting, her and Petro waiting underneath their bed or whatever for this bomb to go off, and then it's not going off, and they think that it is, but it doesn't, and everything else. The whole story that Petro told Ultron in Age of Ultron. And it was a lot to unpack. It really was. So yeah, it goes, like I said, in all the shows that they grew up on. Basically, Bewitched, I Love Lucy, Malcolm in the Middle, just when they were kids. And these are shows that they watched. This is the reason why when she created the Dome, you know, you get the sitcoms, kind of like the different eras or whatever, and why it was in that type of sense, because these are the shows that her and her family watched. Her, Pietro, and her mom and dad would sit down and they would watch these movies when they were younger. And these are the shows that she loved. And these are the reasons why we got the first and second episode like it was, and third, fourth, and so on and so forth. Why you got these episodes looking like these sitcoms, and it changes in different eras because of these are the shows that she loves growing up. And it shows kind of a little bit about how her and Vision got close and why they began to get close. And it was just all mainly over the death of her brother, you know, and she felt like she just didn't have nobody. Her parents died when they were younger, and then she just lost her brother like recently, and then, you know, he was there to console her and listen to her, whatever, during her pain. So it was kind of like, yeah, this is why they kind of got together, because it feels like they don't have it. You know, they just kind of have to have each other, because he literally is a synthoid, or, you know, a robot, however you want to put it, android or whatnot. And he really just doesn't have anybody. You know, he was born in this world alone, and, you know, he just, you know, whatever. He's a computer software program and everything else. And now she's alone. So it's like they are each other's, I guess you could say, comfort. And that's where it became. And also, like, it shows that Sword somehow, some way, manipulated the footage to make it seem like Wanda came up in their facility and broke out Vision and took his body, when in this episode we learned that that's not the case. She broke into, well, not even broke into that, but she came into there, and she didn't steal his body. She saw that his body was there and that it was all dismantled, and she couldn't feel him like she normally could. So she ended up leaving and going by the crib, which actually is the house that they were in the whole series, is the house, or, you know, the area where they were supposed to build their house, which kind of makes it like extremely sad with this episode, because it's like, damn, she's lost everything. I know everybody like to talk about Thor and how he lost everything, which he did, but Wanda, it's certain characters, because it's not really put out there, that you don't really think about it. But yeah, she lost everything. She lost her brother, she lost her parents, and she lost Vision. She lost basically everybody in her life. And it's like, those are the people that she was extremely close to. I mean, of course she has the Avengers or whatever, but these are the people that she was super close to. So all of her dreams, her future, and what she wanted to create with her love, Vision, she doesn't have that anymore. Like Thanos took that from her, you know. And it makes that an extremely sad moment, because, you know, she's realizing it, like, she will never have this. And this is where the whole, you know, hex was created. it was just out of her sadness, her depression, just ended up creating this force field, this thing or whatever for her to live up in there. And then from there, you see how Vision, her version of Vision, was created, and it wasn't using his actual body. And so the kids are still missing. And you have basically, I didn't even mention this, but you have Agatha, who basically is, pushing her through all this, trying to figure out where her power came from. And she has an idea, but she's trying to figure out if what she suspect is actually true. And she just trying to find out, that way she can get her power for herself. And so in this episode, you do find out that she, basically she ends up getting her name, Scarlet Witch. That she is the Scarlet Witch now. And we find out that she's using chaos magic and everything, and it's just a lot of stuff that comes out about it. As well as the episode starts off with showing, Agatha and her, it was like a kind of like back in Salem, and her practicing this type of magic that her coven didn't like, and they tried to basically drain her or punish her for that, and she ended up draining them of all their life force, and basically ended up killing her mom too. And it just kind of shows what type of evil she is. And we find out why, Agatha uses a fake Pietro rather than the real one, seeing that his body is in a whole nother continent. And so she had to settle for finding a guy who she could use to basically portray Pietro. And it does reveal a lot. And basically, not even just reveal, but it just answers a lot of questions. Not every single question, but it does answer a lot of questions that we've been asking and everything. And it actually was a really good episode, and I really did enjoy it. But even still, there's still a lot of people that will make that as a criticism, saying that they'll set up a lot of this stuff, and even though you would expect them to give reveals and everything, it's they'll talk about how you got to give one episode to a lot of exposition and everything else. But it's a lot of it you kind of do have to, especially if you're going to give a reveal, you do kind of need to have at least one episode or one portion of it where you do have to explain certain things. But I can kind of see the criticism, but at the same time, I'm on the other side of it as yeah, okay, I kind of want all this, I need to know certain things, which it was a big thing during, I think, was it episode 3 or episode 4, where they basically just had the whole recap of how, at the beginning of episode 1 and the behind the scenes of episode 2 of why certain weird things was happening and what was behind them and all that stuff. I can see that episode. But this one, it was more of just kind of a reveals more than just here exposition. This is why, and everything else. So I can kind of see that for the earlier episode, but this one it was okay, cool, this was needed. But yeah, that's it for episode 8. And so to go into it, episode 9, the series finale, and even just going off the name. I know a lot of people thinking oh, WandaVision might have a season 2. I honestly don't believe that. I honestly think that this is just a limited series, a one-off, and that's all it's going to be. And this could be, take it how it is, but this could be basically I ain't gonna say nail in the coffin, but I guess you could say a hint toward that, because the episode is called the series finale. It's not called the season finale. It's called the series finale, which basically, to me, says that, yeah, this is just a one-off, a limited series and everything else, and this is the end of it, because this is going to lead into Spider-Man, which is going to lead into Doctor Strange. But this episode is basically what everything was going up into. You know, you got all episodes. And one thing that I mentioned was that they've gotten this far and there's no action. No action at all within this series. And so far, it hasn't been up until this point because this was like just the end result. Like, we're going to put everything up in this one because there is a lot of action from basically beginning to end. I know I say basically a lot, but you know, who cares? But anyway, so you have White Vision, which was the end credit scene for the last, episode or whatnot. Well, for episode 8 or whatnot. And up in this one, you got Vision versus Vision, which Paul Bettany came out before and he said that he always wanted to work with an actor. Well, he get to work with an actor that he's always wanted to work with, and he put Paul Bettany. And a lot of people was just speculating what does that mean? And we found out it's because he's going up against himself. It's going to be Vision against Vision, or just Vision against White Vision. In a sense, the fake Vision against the real Vision. So, however you want to look at it. But we find out a lot of stuff up in this. It has a lot of reveals. We find out who Ralph is. As she always talk about, Ralph, this, Agatha or Agnes always talk about, Ralph. And we find out that Ralph is actually the fake Pietro, whose name is Ralph Boner. And it was just, I ain't gonna say just put in there for a boner joke, but basically got a boner joke. And that's really what it was. So all the speculation of who Pietro is he really the Quicksilver from the Marvel, from the Marvel Fox universe and X-Men universe and everything else? And we got it. No, he's not. He's a random guy who was just brought in for her to manipulate and use as the fake Pietro, because like I said with the spoiler for episode 8, that she couldn't recover his body and use his body for it, which I feel like that probably would have been extremely creepy if she would have. But in any case, so Wanda realizes what she's done. And it's basically by the hands of Agatha, who awakens all the people out of her spell or whatnot, and she starts to realize what she's done to these people. She didn't realize it because all her mind is focused on is, living this life with Vision, her kids, and everything else. And she doesn't realize what she's doing to these people until they start to wake up and show that, she is actually hurting these people. She should have been more, open to, what she's doing, but she wasn't. She was just tunnel vision and just being selfish as to what she wanted. So she's really just waking up into this. And we find out that the kids aren't real. Just like Vision, they're always created and manifested from her power, because we get that from when the dome starts, when she starts to tear apart the hex or whatnot. Vision as well as her kids start to deteriorate and everything. So we find that out. And like I said, there is a pretty good amount of action, not only between both Visions, but also between, Agatha and Wanda. Because, it shows some really good, effects. Some of it is okay, yeah, it is kind of a little bit off or whatnot. But they do have some good visual effects for this show. As far as the fighting goes, the Vision versus Vision is actually pretty funny because of it didn't, how could I say, the fighting part was actually pretty good, but the most interesting and entertaining part of the Vision versus Vision fight was the end and the resolution of it. Was them literally stopping and having a talk about who's the real Vision, what is real, and everything else. And I think it was the ship of Cathesis, or how you pronounce his name. And just it was weird. It was one of those moments where it was what the hell? But then at the same time, he's like, that's Vision. Because he even had somewhat of a similar kind of talk with Ultron at the toward the end of, Age of Ultron. And it was like, that's Vision. Like, only leave it to Vision to sit here and end a fight in a literally intelligent, a intellectual type of discussion. Like, what the hell? Like, it was actually kind of like, it was actually kind of interesting and just how they did it. But I did like that. That was like actually funny as hell. But then even then getting into the fight with Agatha and Wanda, we find out to the extent of Agatha's power. Like, she just has power absorption. Like, she can literally, if you throw any type of like energy or whatever at her, she can absorb it. And that's actually the best type of power to have, because like ain't nobody gonna fuck with you. You got somebody that gonna throw some type of energy blast at you. I sucked it all up. Pause and all of that. But yeah, it's kind of like the Black Panther thing. He gets hit with like some type of power or whatever on his suit, and he basically can hold it and redistribute it. And it shows how powerful she is, because she does that with Wanda. Every time Wanda throws some type of power at her, she absorbs it, and that she can literally absorb her power, and she begins to do that. And I like how they basically have a setup and then they have a payoff, with Wanda basically trying to go at Agatha while they were inside of her basement in her little dungeon, but she couldn't use her power because of the spells that was around it, just granting the witch who cast the spell only being able to, use their power. And during that fight, when she was literally seeming like she was giving her power to Agatha, and then it was times where she was throwing her power and missing and hitting the hex, I'm like, she's doing something. She's she's purposely just not, like hitting her. Like, she's giving her power, hitting her directly, but then there's certain ones that just hitting the dome. And I'm just like, she's doing something. And I didn't even think about it. But then when the dust settled, you realize that, that she is basically casting that spell. And I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. And somebody on Facebook had like made a meme, and it basically it actually is funny as hell, because the same thing that happened in Endgame happened here, where somebody thought that they had this type of power and they was about to use it, and they couldn't use it. With Thanos had the gauntlet and he snapped his fingers, but he didn't have the stones. And then you got Iron Man, you got Tony, had the stones and he used it. Same thing with her. Agatha thought that she had all of this chaos magic, and she was about to use it on Wanda, and she finds out that she can't use it. But the basically the spell shows that she can't do it, and then Wanda gets the power and she uses it. Like, that was funny as hell. I didn't even see that until I saw the Facebook thing. But I did like that matchup. I really did. And I thought that was actually pretty smart, especially with the setup and the payoff. And it ended way different than what I thought it would have ended. I thought that it was going to end off sad, which was going to bring her into, Multiverse of Madness as the villain. I mean, there's still time to make her a villain, if that even is her role within that movie. But it actually ended off pretty, kind of, it kind of wrapped up pretty good, satisfying, with her being able to accept and be good with everything that was happening. She was able to let her kids go, able to say goodbye to them. She was able this time, unlike she, was the last time. I mean, she did say bye, but this time it was like, she was able to really say bye in like a different type of way, rather than, I'm about to kill you because this is going to happen. It was like, I have to let you go. That way I can be better, and everything else. And I actually did like the way it ended. It was sad. It was real sad with the way it ended, but I actually did like the way it ended. I wasn't disappointed that it didn't end the way I thought it was going to end it, because I wasn't pushing for that. It was just more of a prediction, what I think it may go. But, I really did like the way it ended. And it just shows that she basically is going into a new chapter in her life. Like, she gotten to say goodbye to her kids. She got to spend the time with them and Vision again. And so now she is moving on. She got this new thing, her power, and she's learned more about it. Now she wants to fully understand it, just like Vision said up in Infinity War. Like, he didn't know what the stone was, but he wants to understand it, Or was it Civil War? It was one of those movies where he said that he doesn't know what the stone is, but he wants to understand. I think it was Civil War. But yeah, and I actually do like the look of the Scarlet Witch, her whole outfit and everything else. I love the look of it. Looks crazy good. And it's like we got a post-credit scene of, her hearing her kids while she's reading the book. And one thing I was thinking is like, okay, she is off into this place away from everybody. Why didn't she just create a dome or, the hex around that area and literally just live her life off in there? She could have created more people to have a little life, a house and everything else. Her kids could be there. Vision could be there, and she can just use her powers to keep that hex up away from everybody. So it was like, yeah, maybe I ain't gonna say it's a plot hole, but it's like it's kind of one of those things where it's like it would make sense. Just like the Asgardians on Earth, you have this whole planet where Thanos went to basically just retire. Why didn't they just, after, Endgame or whatever, why didn't they just move the Asgardians to that planet? Or the Skrulls. Why didn't the Skrulls okay, well, let's go ahead and go to that planet? It was kind of like one of those things. Not a plot hole, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe y'all should kind of utilize that. But hey, I mean, it's just me. But I wonder, toward the end, Monica, who was the guy that, the Skrull was referring to, that he wants to see you? I'm thinking it's Nick Fury. But I'm pretty sure it probably is. But, whatever. And one thing that just threw me off. So Hayward was one of those characters that, you can look at kind of like a good guy, but doing some of the wrong things, going about trying to do something good. And it was like, okay, you can kind of see that the episode's leading toward this episode. But this episode, he shot at little kids. Like, what type of guy? Like, I don't care if they're real or not real. It's like he doesn't know that. He literally raised his gun and shot at kids. Like, he don't even know if they had any power. So he literally would have killed the child. I don't know the reasoning behind the writing behind that or anything else, or if there was something missing or why he did that. But I feel like, why the hell did he shoot at a kid? But whatever. And this also, just to kind of wrap this up, I'm not gonna go too long. Didn't want to go this long, but yeah. So Monica gets her powers and she looks badass. She looks badass. But she doesn't really use too much of it. It shows that she can stand toe to toe with Scarlet Witch as far as resisting. I ain't gonna say she go toe to toe with as far as powers, because Scarlet Witch is just extremely powerful. But it shows that she kind of knows how to use her power. When she jumped in front of the way of Hayward shooting at the kids, and then went through her body and literally just fell down after it left out her body. And then you see one of the kids stop the bullet in midair and just drop it. And it was kind of like one of those things yeah, okay, Hayward, yeah, you just an asshole, or you just a dick. I don't know. It's one of those words. But Darcy also makes an appearance, and you got Jimmy makes an appearance. Jimmy, he calls in the cavalry that arrests Hayward at the end, which he definitely deserved it. But Darcy, it was like she really just made one appearance in this episode, which she basically just dead ex machinas Hayward, get him basically just put him out to where he can't go anywhere, and she just disappears. And it was just okay. She came in for her little cameo in this episode and she dipped off. But as far as the way that this show wrapped up, I really did like it. Really did. I wasn't too disappointed. I wasn't disappointed at all. I really did like it. I really thought that they did a great job with this show. And yeah, like I would love to see them do more stuff like this, being as bold as they did with this whole show and everything. And yeah, I like the way this last episode ended. It was actually pretty cool and everything, and all the answers that they basically answer, or the questions that they answered up in this one, and just some of the questions that they set up for future projects with future characters. So I can't wait to see what else is going to come from this and how this is going to lead into Spider-Man and into Doctor Strange and everything else. And I want to see the full extent of Monica's power in Captain Marvel too. So I can't wait to see that. But other than that, oh yeah, and what's going to happen with Vision? That's another question. He didn't show up. The White Vision didn't show up after, he left the battle. And when is he going to appear? Maybe in Armor Wars? We don't know. But yeah, that has been this episode of the ST Podcast. I'm about to say Take One Podcast. Of the ST Podcast. Thank you guys for joining me. And yeah, this has been a long one. 3 reviews and everything else. And I don't know if I'm going to be doing another one for this for episode 2 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. I might just do a regular spoiler review. Maybe if I got something else to review, because I don't think that review is going to take that long. But, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But I will be doing that right after episode 2. Maybe even Friday or Saturday, one of those days. But it will be dropping that day. And, yeah. That's all I have to say. As well as, like I said, this Thursday I should be putting out my WandaVision review. So look out for that. And I will catch you guys on the next one. So peace out and stay safe.